Namaste and welcome to today's session. ECDF and I, Yatee Parmar, Zonal Head ECDF, would like to, welcome you all for this pivotal topic on social emotional learning and strategies for educators and parents. So I would like to thank all the panelists today for agreeing to be on this panel. And I hope that today's webinar will prove to be a meaningful one. So for all the audience out there, I would like to introduce our esteemed panelists. We have on the panel Kosha Mehta, enthusiastic trainer, speaker, faculty for ECCE students. Hi, ma'am.
Hi, hello everyone. Hope you all are doing good in this critical situation. Be home, be safe.
Yes. Next, we have Nathan Fry, kindergarten grade leader in the bilingual kindergarten in Shanghai, former multi-sports coach. Nong Ho, Nathan.
Hello, everyone. I hope you're happy and healthy wherever you are. Hello.
So next we have Dr. Vasavi Acharya, founder, chairperson, ECDF, MD, Tender Patterns Preschool Chain, CEO, editor, Education Journal, Ecdf. Hi, Vasavi.
Hi, everyone. A very good evening to all of you.
So before we begin, I would like to give a short intro of ECDF, like what we do and what it's all about. So ECDF is actually Early Child Development Forum, and it's an initiative of DNA Foundation for Children and Women Development. So the mission of ECDF is to empower parents, educators, and other stakeholders who work with children of early years through our seminars, webinars, conferences, and trainings and workshops. ECDF tried to reach out to children from the economically and socially disadvantaged sections of the society through their charity projects. To become a member or to know more, visit our website ecdfforum.org and our FB page ECDF Forum. Yeah, so now we're good to begin, and there's a small brief of this session today. So social emotional learning is the foundation, the heartbeat of the classroom. It's about connecting everybody and making them feel safe, secure before you get to the academics. And the shift to the full-time online learning in the wake of the coronavirus pandemic has brought some changes and challenges to the parents and educators in terms of the social emotional learning of kids at home. Obviously, they are missing their friends, they're missing their teachers, the classroom studies and everything. So today's session will be directed towards social emotional learning and what strategies parents and educators can adopt in order to make it, implement. So my first question is to Dr. Vasavi. So Vasavi, as you know that social emotional learning has become, one of the hottest topics in education in the last couple of years. And for those who are still new to this topic, could you please explain what SEL is and why it matters in early years the most? Over to you, Vasavi.
Okay, Yatee, thanks for the question. When we talk about socio-emotional learning, let me talk about the, let me give a small example about experiment that was being done by, by some schools with their very small toddlers. And it was about they were marshmallows. They were 4 years old and they were given some marshmallows and they were asked, some of them were asked, all of them were in fact, to either wait and get a few more marshmallows or just have it at that time, right? So what would you do? What would you do if you had a choice of eating one marshmallow now or receiving 2 marshmallows if you wait? So, that was very interesting. And going to the next slide. Now, just think what would you do and see what the results were. Okay. So, after that experiment by Walter Mischel, the end result that follow up was the children who were able to delay gratification and regulate their emotions and behavior is a key part of a set of skills often referred to as socio-emotional skills. So when Yatee, what is socio-emotional skills? I started with this example because this is about the feeling, about, some self-management, awareness, and different things. So in the world where academic skills are often viewed as a priority, socio-emotional skills development may not always be at the forefront for most parents and educators, but research has shown that socio-emotional skills are crucial for children to become successful both socially and academically. So now let us discuss about the early years. What are the early years? Next slide, please. When we look at the early years, the first 5 years, okay, before going to the first 5 years, let me just tell about socio-emotional skills generally. It's the knowledge, attitude, and skills necessary for youth to recognize and control their emotions. So some call it the soft skills, some call it the non-cognitive skills or character attributes. Socio-emotional skills have been shown to be malleable and linked to academic career and success. So now coming to the first 5 years, what happens to children in their early years? We all know that these are the most crucial period of a child's life. Why? Because children grow and develop rapidly in their first 5 years across the 4 main areas of development. These are the motor physical skills, communication, language, cognitive, and social-emotional. And in these years, the child's brain develops the most, and the relationship that you have with your child and the influences of the environment make a huge impact on the child's learning and development. And also neural networks form and develop around at this time. So what are neural networks? Neural networks are, the feelings that we have, and that forms a network in our mind regarding whether we are more self-confident, whether, positive feelings give you more confidence, positive, feedback give you a different kind of, self-esteem. Whereas when it is very negative, if somebody is all the time, kind of hovering over the child, a very negative neural network develops. And that gives the child negative impression about the world. So we won't get much into the neural networking circuit. Going to the next slide, now we'll talk about why socio-emotional development in early years is so important. Because, like I already said, children learn and absorb the most in the early years. They're like sponges. And all these children's experiences are actually giving them those connections to the world, with the connection with themselves. We call it the interpersonal and the intrapersonal skills. So socio-emotional development includes the child's experiences, expressions, and management of emotions, and they establish positive and rewarding relationship with others. And if we look at the early years, next slide, please. Children are like wet cement. Whatever falls on them makes an impression. So these years affect how the brain works. And when they have positive relationship, they are given good, an environment where they can respond positively to stress, to different things. They develop trusting relationships. Their brain undergoes, some kind of a different kind of development, language blossoms. So this is the right time to plant the seed of good relationship, not only with their inner selves, not only with themselves, but also outward, with the outside world. And now if we come to why socio-emotional skills matter, we go on to the next slide. Yes, so I've already have said a little about why it matters, because it's going to reflect on the child as a grown-up. Even, whatever is the experience now, whatever you have learned now, whatever you have absorbed now is going to reflect when the child grows up. So I would like to read out this quote. Emotional intelligence begins to develop in the early years. All the small exchanges children have with their parents, teachers, and with each other carry emotional messages. Therefore, socio-emotional development is the child's confidence, like I already said, empathy, putting yourself in somebody else's shoes, the ability to develop meaningful and lasting friendship and partnerships, a sense of importance and value to those around him or her. Children's social emotional development also influences all other areas of development, which we already discussed, because the way a child, perceives himself or herself, the whole thing reflects in the child's later success. Therefore, early social emotional skills are related to how socially, emotionally, academically, and professionally skilled we are in later life. For example, having high socio-emotional skills in kindergarten is related to important outcomes at age 25. That is a research finding. So it is very important that socio-emotional skills become a part of our, teaching curriculum or the syllabus. I mean, the curriculum activities that we do, and even at home, parents have to kind of guide their children in the right manner. Right. So this is how, Yatee,
Yeah, I agree. Well, that's great, but it doesn't sound like something you can teach. How do you teach things, Kosha ma'am? What do you think? How do you teach things like emotional regulation and relationship skills to such young kids out there? And why is it so important for children to develop their social emotional learning? What strategies you have for parents out there in this COVID situation? Over to you, ma'am.
I would say that social regulations and relationships skills, when we say, they are not the skills that we are born with.
Yeah.
So it becomes very important for us to help our children to check their expressions, to modulate their expressions, to experience different emotions, and to learn to express these emotions. So we need to help them to learn to self-regulate their emotion, their social and emotional skills. In fact, this is one of the important milestones in their learning, right? So when we are talking about social and emotional learning, the children who do not have right kind of social and emotional skills developed, so they, if the child cannot self-regulate himself or herself, obviously it becomes very difficult for the child to form relationships, be it parent-child relationship, or be it a relationship with friends, the peers, relatives, and this is how it goes on. And when something like this does not happen, then anger, anxiety, frustrations, it all, comes. It becomes very stressful for parents as well, right? And this also affects their academic performance or their performance. Otherwise, they cannot focus, they cannot perform well. But children who can regulate themselves, who are self-aware, who has good self-management skills, they can handle these kind of situations. They can perform better, they can have healthy relationship with people around them. So I would say when children are developing socially and emotionally, when they are learning to control their emotions, when they are learning to behave themselves, with others, or when there are people around, they need to interact. Of course, in this situation that we are facing as of now, it is very difficult for them to interact with more people. Right. Then usually at home we normally have old age people, young children, and parents, of course. So it is very important for the child to interact with so many people around. So their emotions, that also needs to be handled in a particular way, as you are aware. So people say that it is their foundation when they start playing with their peer group or playing with their siblings or friends. That is the starting of their social skills, the development, the first step. But that is not so. It actually starts much before that, right? So I would say that social and emotional skills, these are very complex process from birth till your childhood. So as they grow, they experience different situations. As they grow, they come across different, kind of people. As they grow, they see different environment. Then that is how they learn how to behave with people. That is how they learn how to regulate, how to regulate their emotions. And I would say that there are many evidences, that say that social and emotional learning helps into their well-being. So it is definitely very, very important. Now, I should say that now that in this situation when we are at home, there are so many things that parents can do with their children to develop their social emotional skills, right? So the first and the most important skill, I would say, or the step to be taken care of is, I would say, encourage their interests. Because when they are doing something that they are interested in, they would, enjoy those activities more. They would want to do it more. So when these things happen, they usually mix with like-minded people, and that is how they develop the skills. Not that they should not interact with other people with other interests, but this is the first step towards their social interaction, towards their social skills. Then I would say that parents should make sure that when children are say nervous about something, or they lack that communication skills, it is important for the parents to keep asking questions to their children, or just help them to deal with their emotions in a true way. They should ask them, why are you nervous, or what is it that is bothering you, what is it that is troubling you, or play, say, dramatic play. Have a dramatic play at home wherein they will play and they will act like a person whom they are not very comfortable talking with. So when they play, when they have a role of a particular person whom they are not very comfortable with, as parents, they can judge what is it that is not making them very comfortable. Because as we all know that in this situation, there are very limited things that we can do, because they cannot go out, they cannot mix with many people. But I would say there are many other things that they can take care of to see all these things. Or I would say teach them empathy, right?
That's very important, right?
That is very important. Like, let them have understanding to what other people would feel in different situations. Or ask them to understand their emotions. Ask them, how would you feel, when they are in that situation? Or watch, there is that movie called Ugly Duckling. I would say encourage them to watch that and ask your child, how would you feel if you are in that situation?
True.
Right? And the most important is role play of those characters. That will help them to develop their emotional skills and social skills as well.
True.
Another important thing I would say is understand your child. See, don't expect your child to be socially active all the time. There are some children who may not be as active as others. Understand and respect that your child is a little reserved, which is absolutely fine. There is nothing wrong if your child is reserved, right? Another important thing I would say is be a role model. Practice what you preach. So when you are talking to others, the way you are expressing your emotions, how you are talking to others, the kind of words that you use with others. See, children are observing. And when whatever they observe, they will practice. So as parents, it is important for us to be very careful when children are around. I would say avoid unnecessary arguments, avoid fights at home if they are witnessing all these things. It is something very simple. When you are talking to your maid, say an example, or the Iron Man, or anybody, any domestic help, or anybody, when you go, how you talk, because your child is going to observe. Mind your words, mind your behavior. So these are the things very, very important. And I would say that, most importantly, I would say love your child.
True.
That is the most important. Not that people don't love their children, they definitely do. But, hugging your child every day is a must. Saying your child, I love you, is a must every day. Because that gives them a lot of, self-confidence, emotional confidence, security to them. True. Do it very often. Do it every day. Right? This is what you can do at home when we are with your children as of now. In this situation, when we cannot go out. These are the simple things that we can follow to make them socially and emotionally strong. Understand the strength and weakness and work upon it.
That's true, ma'am. That's true. And well said. Some very important and noteworthy points which Kosha ma'am mentioned.
Yeah.
Kudos to you, ma'am. Thank you so much for your points. Next, we go to Nathan. Nathan, for schools that don't have the resources to build an intentional, aspirational SEL program, what are those some things which educators can do which require minimal time and money to improve a school's social emotional support? Over to you, Nathan.
Good evening. So to start with, I'm going to link on to Kosha's point about being a role model, because as an educator, it costs nothing and it takes no time to be a good role model. So if you want children to have manners and simple things like that, do it yourself. Children will naturally copy what you do. So in a stressful environment, if you're calm, they'll try and replicate it. But if they can see that you get stressed or angry, they will copy that too, because that will become the normal response. So it's very important that when you have that time, that you demonstrate exactly what you would want from them. And the same, when they get angry, they want to see how you respond. And if they're showing negative behavior, they want to see exactly how you respond to that. Because if you mirror them and you join them in that anger, then that will become a normal response. And that will become part of how they emotionally respond. So the main thing with that is you need to learn and think about what they are going to do back. So whatever you're doing, they're going to do back. And if you don't want that response, then you need to model that yourself. The next point I'm going to make is about role play. I know you touched on it briefly.
Nathan,
I'm talking
Nathan,
more
one second. Your voice is not very clear.
How about now? Is that better?
Yeah, it's much better, much better. Try to speak slowly so that you have some pauses and it can cover the whole.
Okay, sorry, I am talking from China. I'll try slow down. So the next point I'm going to make is about role play and reenacting scenarios. So the first part within either a kindergarten, a nursery, an early years centre is that you'll have the opportunity to role play life. And as long as it's authentic, children will respond to it. So you can deliberately create scenarios which might naturally cause tension, and you can teach them how to respond. And that doesn't mean necessarily you being the teacher, but you can praise positive responses, and you can build up an environment where it might test their patience, it might test how they're feeling, and then from that, you can start to teach into it. So yes, we can teach social emotional skills and by using the children. The next thing I've said that costs nothing, but sometimes you do have to take the time to speak to children.
Yeah.
And you can talk through what happened. So if you got some negative behavior or you got an angry outburst, sometimes just talking very simply and asking what happened, and let the children think about what happened in their mind. What was the thought process? Why did they get angry? Somebody took my toy, now I'm angry. So you can talk that back 5 steps maybe, because it might have started with the friend asked to borrow the toy, they said no. The friend asked again, said no. They took the toy, they're now fighting over the toy, and now they're both angry. So if you can break it down, go back and talk over it, and then once that's finished, reenact it. Have those 2 children, and we can, oh, can I borrow that toy? Oh, not right now, but in 5 minutes I'll give it to you. And you can start to break it down and give them solutions. And the more solutions you give children, the more they'll use. And then the final point I've made for schools that will cost absolutely nothing is have a look at your behaviour policy. Often the behaviour policy will severely impact that negative behaviour because there won't be any response to it apart from maybe the child misses out, the child spends 3 minutes sat on their own, the child is disciplined in whatever way your school chooses. But I think you need to be very aware that you might have lost that opportunity. Rather than spending 3 minutes sitting them down, maybe you could have spent 3 minutes doing something else. Maybe you could have spent 3 minutes teaching them about their response. So if your response is to naturally just take them away and you're being punished or you're losing something, then you've actually lost an opportunity. That was a free opportunity for you to teach them something. And it's also up to the educator to translate the behavior. And a very simple one, if a child stole a piece of fruit or food, maybe they're hungry, maybe they're not just stealing. If somebody's crying, maybe they want your attention. So instead of punishing them, find out what it is they want, translate that behavior, because behavior is simply communication. And I'll pass that back to Yatee. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Nathan. That's a great answer. Kosha ma'am, do you think that the SEL program is working effectively on kids and they are actually benefiting from it? And how can we actually know it, that they are benefiting or they are not benefiting from it? And what are the actual benefits of SEL program? If you can, just elaborate a bit.
See, I would say that here we need to check 5 areas in children when it comes to social and emotional skills. One would be self-awareness. Then it would be self-management, social awareness, then relationship skills, and decision-making skills. Right? So I would say that as parents, it is very important for us to observe children in different situations. How do they react to different situations? How are they able to cope in stressful situations? Or, when, like as Nathan said, wants a toy, how does he ask for that toy? Right? I would say that always remember that children speak in 100 languages. One is verbal, and the rest are all their actions. The way they act, the way they throw tantrums, or the way they, ask something with a smiling face, their faces say it all. Right? So how do they control? What kind of emotions do they use in different situations? These are the things we need to understand first. Now, of course, we do have a little more time as parents, so we can always document what we are observing. If possible, analyze the documents and kind of summarize it and try to communicate it with the children as to what is it that they need to understand, or what is it that they need to know. Trust me, even the parents can incorporate competencies in daily life, say through playing games. So you are showing 2 smileys to your child. One is of a happy face and one is of probably a sad face with different emotions, and ask your child, what do you understand from this? Right? What kind of emotion do you agree with, or you feel that you are associated with this kind of emotions? What do you think is suitable for you? So that is something we need to understand this. Or just ask the child to stand in front of the mirror and make different faces, right? Sad, happy, angry, frustrated, and ask that child that, see how you look in these kind of emotions. What do you think will others feel when they are in this kind of emotions? Right? Talk to them, tell them a lot of stories, and ask a child to relate to a particular character. That, what would happen if you were in this character situation? How would you feel? Right? So these are the things that can be done, and this is the way we can utilize this time as of now when it comes to the children. Correct? And as I said earlier, it will benefit, these social and learning skill, SEL, will benefit the children in so many ways. At longer. See, today you have seen, I would say, so many students, when they do not get the desired result in their exams, right? Or if they fail in their relationships, they just commit suicide.
Right.
Why it is that? Because somewhere their foundation, their early years, they were not given the right kind of foundation when it comes to social emotional skills. Right? They do not feel secure. So see the other side of the spectrum when they say, you need to listen to your child. You need to be a good listener. You need to be a good observer as a parent. Make your child feel very secured that we are there with you, no matter what. That is how it should be. And as you ask me, how does it benefit the children? Then, as I said, if socially and emotionally healthy child will always find it easier to form relationships, will always have healthy relationships, will perform better academically, will be able to face any difficult situation, will be very confident, and will be able to focus better in academic studies, will be stabilized in the relationship, will be able to handle any kind of trauma. And today when I'm seeing in this situation, corona situation, there are so many children who have understood the importance of being at home, and they are taking it very healthily. They are at home either studying or playing, but there are some children who are not able to take it. They are so frustrated. So this is how it affects them. Therefore, as parents and educators, it is very important for us to develop and strengthen their social and emotional skills. That is how it will help them in future when you see the other side of the spectrum.
Right, ma'am. Right. Ma'am, also how
schools for that matter.
Yes, ma'am. Right. Ma'am, I also wanted to know how this is linked with the academics of a child. How social emotional learning is, linked with the academics. Can you just elaborate it a bit?
Can you repeat again? It was not very clear.
Ma'am, I'm saying that how the social emotional learning of a kid is linked with the academics of a child. Because we see nowadays educators don't pay much attention to their social emotional learning, and they're much more concerned about their academics. Be it educators, be it parents, they all are the same. So I just want to know how they are interlinked and how they can actually have a positive impact on their academics.
I would say that the child who is socially and emotionally healthy is first of all able to concentrate better, because he usually is in a playful and good mood. Number two, his attention span is much better as compared to other children who are not happy about the environment, who are frustrated, who are angry, who are sad, right? So they can focus better on what is being taught. They are able to actively participate in different activities that is given. They are able to solve problems given by the teachers, because their problem solving skills is also very, very strong. They can have healthy discussions with their peer group or with the teacher, right? And as I said, they can participate better. So this way they are able to understand what is being taught, because they're usually socially and emotionally healthy. They are happy. So they don't mind coming to school. They don't mind listening to the teachers. They don't mind learning new things, and that is how their cognitive development also takes place. So definitely, if they are healthy overall, if they are healthy and their cognitive development is healthy as well, then definitely will be able to do much better in their academic skills as compared to children with not so healthy SEL.
And here I would like to add in, Yatee, and I basically see there are two areas, the EQ and the IQ. We call it the emotional intelligence and the IQ, the basically which is measurable. So we are born with the IQ, and our EQ basically it's in the frontal lobe. It's about 40% of the front part, and the IQ is a small bit here, which is our intelligence. Generally, per se, like we say, this person is got a very high IQ and emotional quotient. So here when we come to IQ, when you think logically, when you're thinking, you're having very high logical and analytical skills, and you do not have the soft skills, which we call the EQ, the soft skills. So see, students, young students who have performed very well in the exams. We had an example in Assam. She got about 95% in English literature, but she could not bag a seat in the college she wanted to, and she could not take that stress, and she committed suicide. So her IQ, the intelligence is very high, but the ability to manage that stress, or that manage that rejection that she did not get, she could not bear it. So when a child is socially, the emotional quotient is strong, or the emotional intelligence is high, they can actually perform. So that child was intelligent, but she did not have those EQ, the emotional intelligence, to manage that stress. So I would also say that, see, the world is made up of different professions. We have so many things to do. It's not only about academics. We need good hairdressers, we need good fashion stylists, we need everything, right? So when parents are always about academics, study, and say the child doesn't have a knack for studies per se, but wants to go to a different field and where they can excel. So we look at excelling. It's about that example, which is very common these days when we say that, when all the animals of the jungle were told to swim, only the fish could come first, and some of the animals could not get into the water. That didn't mean that they were not good at anything. They were good at their own things. So we have to understand the skills, that we need to develop. Nathan can also comment on this. Nathan, anything?
Yeah, so one of the things I think you said that was really important there was about successes. So often we do measure success simply as a result on a test. And I think for a lot of students, especially in China and England, from my experiences, you often have very, very able sporting athletes or artists. And these students are often regarded as the lower academically. But if you go outside and you played football, for example, with them, they might be the best at football, but in your class, they would still be regarded as lower. So for educators, you need to be really careful that you give everyone that chance to be successful. So within your day, you might need to do some art, some craft, and let those people be successful and give them the opportunity to learn about themselves, rather than taking them out of that subject that they enjoy and they're successful at and giving them extra academic lessons. Because every time you take them out of what they're successful at, you're giving them less and less success. So we need to be very careful as educators that we give everyone the opportunity to be successful.
Yes, and we can talk about the multiple...
I would like to say one thing to add to what Nathan is saying, that sadly in traditional schools, what happens is they expect children to rote learn. So somewhere, they lack that sportsmanship spirit, and they cannot accept defeat. They cannot accept failure, which is very important, that for them to understand that it's okay to fail. It's absolutely fine, And here, parents and teachers, they need to help and make them feel that it's okay if you fail. You can always, be up on your feet and prove yourself again, and you can always try again. That is also
Yes, we can talk about multiple intelligence. Nowadays, we do not stick to the framework of judging or, keep child only on the basis of the academics. We look at the multiple skills. And now educators, as educators, we have to look at set and not only, academic part of it. So we can think about linguistic intelligence. If a child is very good linguistically, or the communication skills are very good, they can tomorrow become orators. They can become politicians. They can, take up a different profession. Similarly, when we are looking at visual and kinesthetic skills, these skills, if a child depicts, projects from early childhood years, they can tomorrow get into architecture. They can get into planning of buildings. So every skill has its own set of importance. So here I would want to tell the parents and the educators that it is very important that the child develops confidence. Child develops the basic things, the relationship skills, and all of it, and not judge them on the basis of marks and on the basis of academic performance. Because at the end I have seen my own sister doing physics, but now she's in the marketing, line, and she's doing excellent in it. So it's not about the academic that we do. So here, when parents feel that, pressure that your child is not doing well in this and that, and instead of telling them you're not good at it, they should try to encourage. And that is going to build up the socio-emotional skills in terms of interpersonal and intrapersonal skills. Because once the child loves himself or herself, he will be able to love the others. If he sees good in himself, he'll be able to see good in the others. So that is very crucial. So once we inculcate these values and things and the belief in the child that I am okay, I am good, not that I am not okay and he's okay. So, those good beliefs, if we can put them inside inculcate from early years, we can leave them. Because today is the age of skills. Today is not the age of one profession, because we are seeing profession dying out in months. Now after this lockdown, we have seen so many kind of businesses stopping right in the middle of it. So we need multiple sets of intelligence. So parents need to develop socio-emotional skills first, and then go think about academic and XYZ that comes into the spectrum at that point of time.
Right. True.
Agree.
So, Vasavi, can you just mention the 5 core competencies of SEL and what are the best practices and strategies to implement those 5 core competencies of SEL for our parents and for our educators out there?
See, Kosha already mentioned the 5 competencies, which include self-awareness, then social awareness, relationship skills, decision-making, self-management, right?
Yeah,
so
right.
what we do, I run a chain of preschools called Tender Petals, and in our schools, like first coming to the school, curriculum that we do, we have lot of socio-emotional, like Nathan had said, Kosha had said, role play, sharing exercises, activities related to sharing, because children are egocentric. They don't want to share. We don't label them as self-centered. Every child is egocentric. Even you were probably, Yatee, when you had first gone to school with your bag and you don't want to part with your bag, So that child is not selfish. Yeah. So children are egocentric, and we teach them the skills of sharing. We show them, exercises where they have got one chocolate and they need to share and feel that happiness which they get after sharing something, right?
Very important.
There are different activities which encourages children. Again, when we look at children who are 2 years and below, they play alone. If you have noticed, they like to take one toy and play alone. On the other hand, while they keep growing, they start mixing with the second one and the third one, and they form a group. So we have to cajole them into getting into, that relationship building that is there. And decision making, if we come to the core skill of decision making, see, Indian parents, I will not, I don't know, Nathan, what you do in China, because in Indian parents, we usually tell our children, this is the right thing to do, that is the right thing to do, and we do not allow them to take decisions. Even if we go to a restaurant, we order the food that we want to have. We do not tell our children, order what you want to have, So their decision making thing gets affected. Even I have seen very, generally, my parents, school parents sometimes tell, my child wanted to wear this. I told her, don't wear this thing. So we are always kind of putting our belief into our child. So that actually impedes decision making in the long run. Tomorrow, when you'll see that the child has become ready to take up a different, after matriculation, we do a matriculation and we are ready to take up our courses, different subjects. The child would never have their own decision. They'll always ask 100 people, what should I take? What should I study? What should I do? Because their decision-making capacity was stumped at that point of time when they were small. So we have to give them independence. We have to give them activities where they work independently. And Kosha might want to add more to it, and Nathan might also want to add more to it. Nathan, you can also add, and then Kosha, about these activities on the core skills.
So I agree to all the points that you mentioned just now. And as I said, it is this is the time for the parents, especially when we all are at home, to make the most of it. See how your child is when it comes to meeting people or taking this coronavirus emotionally and things like that. You have a lot of time to work upon it. You have a lot of time to talk to your children. You have a lot of time to observe them. You have a lot of time to change them, when it comes to their SEL. So I would say that we have covered almost everything, and
one more point.
In fact, certain parents, they work from home also, but I would say they still need to spend some time with their children, so that the children feel that my parents are right here. Though they are working, they are still with me. That is how you make your children feel safe and secure, and that is how you make sure that their holistic development is healthy. That is what
yes, ma'am. Right. Ma'am, also we can add one point, like our kids should understand what it is all about when they fail. What failure is all about, right? And as we all know that we always been taught like that, okay, you have to succeed at this and that, and but never ever you have this learning that, okay, if you fail, then what to do? What next? What next after the failure? What if you don't succeed? Is it okay? Is it not okay? So as a
what I was saying, that if your child fails, it is very important to tell your child that it is absolutely okay to fail.
Yes.
There are 10,000 options outside for you to make sure that you are, you'll be successful and you'll do better. So don't worry. And always as parent, appreciate whatever your child has done. He may be having a limited capabilities to do things, but appreciate that.
Yes, that's very important.
That is very important. Yes.
Yeah. Nathan, you want to add something?
Yeah, I'll add a little bit from my school in China. So we're an international baccalaureate school. So for us, we design our curriculum around 3 points of the child. So it's voice, choice, and ownership. So the children must be given their own voice and their own opinions. They must be given choices. And so all of our lessons start in the same way, and it'll link on to something I'm going to talk about later. But we ask the children a question, and then they can choose how they answer it. So if they want to answer it with a craft, they can prove it with a craft. If they want to go and do it with maths, they can do it with maths. Language, it's up to them. Role play. So we give them a question to solve, and sometimes it'll need lots of these different elements. Sometimes it'll just be one, but they get to choose. Sometimes we may direct them, but 90% of the time, they'll naturally make their own choice. And sometimes, as you're saying, they'll fail. But that's okay, because they made their own choices. And once, at the end of every lesson, we come back together. And then they just learn from their friends. Exactly. So they see which was the right choice. So they made their choice. And then at the end, they get to choose if it was the right choice or not. So for us, that's how our curriculum works. It's all about the child's choices, and then they get to reflect on it.
True. So Nathan, I have one final question to you. That is, do you have some strategies and practices and or some special programs with respect to where you are right now in Shanghai? Do you want to share something, what you are, imparting there? You're implementing some things there with respect to the skills of children in the early years. Do you want to add something, and do you want to share something?
Of course. So one of the main things that we do is we have made like a learner profile. So this is across all international baccalaureate schools across the world. So there's 8 parts to it. So the children need to be caring, open-minded, inquirers, communicators, principled, knowledgeable, balanced, and thinkers. And we teach these 2 at a time. So every unit, which we have 4 per year, we pick 2 of these. And then we completely redesign our classroom to teach them about just those 2 elements of being a learner. So for example, if we had caring and open-minded, for caring, we would literally make areas of our classroom designed to give them the opportunity to show how you could be caring. So we have like a baby's nursery, so they can pretend to be mummies, daddies. We have a veterinary area, so they can go and pretend to be a vet. So they're starting to work out what caring is. And then the other example, they'll be open-minded. So open-minded means you value others' opinions. So for 3-4-year-olds, that can be really difficult. But one way that we do that is we have hats that literally say, I'm trying to be open-minded, which means that that child that normally might go to a construction area with their open-minded hat on might go to the art corner, might go outside to play. So the open-minded hat isn't like, and then so with these lessons, like I explained earlier, we'll ask a question, the children go and answer it in however way they want, but then when they come back, we have discussions. So for the entire term that we're working on these, every day we will talk about being caring and being open-minded. So often the children will talk about how I was caring or how I was open-minded, but as the unit goes on, they'll talk about their friends. So they might pick out a specific friend and give a good example. And the further we get along, so maybe 2nd and 3rd unit, the children will start to role play things that they've seen. So they will give little performances, little reactions of how they're becoming balanced learners. So that those social emotional skills are then being taught by their peers. And children are, one, interested in themselves, always interested in their parents, and the same with their teachers. But above us, their peers will be there. And their peers are fantastic teachers for them.
Yeah, that was so interesting. That was really interesting, Nathan. We have to try some of those in our schools here.
Yes.
I'm glad you like them.
True. So, do we have any question or something, or shall we move forward? Although we are ahead of our time, it's
yes. I think we are
4:50.
past our time. Yes. So I think we can just wind this
Yeah.
session.
Yeah.
Fine.
Cool. So we had a wonderful session with our knowledgeable panelists, and I would like to thank all of them for accepting the invite and enlightening us all. Thank you, Kosha ma'am. Thank you, Nathan. And thank you, Wasabi.
Thank you.
Very, very informative session we had today. And thank you for making it so beautiful and interesting.
Thank you.
Thank you,
All the best to
Thank
everyone.
you.
Bye.
Thank you
See
for your
ya.
time.
Thank you.
Stay safe, everyone.
Bye. Stay safe.
Stay safe.
Yeah, stay home, stay safe, and keep learning.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Take care.
Bye.